My name is Radhika Desai. I teach politics at the University of Manitoba, and I'm speaking to you today from Winnipeg, which, as I always underline, is located on the stolen lands of the Anishinaabe, the Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and is the homeland of the Métis Nation. A quick internet search reveals that I was not alone in recalling what Lenin apocryphally is believed to have said, that there are decades when nothing happens and then weeks when decades happen. Nor was I alone in relating it to the events of the last 3 weeks. Friends of Socialist China planned today's event to reflect the already great and growing importance of the relationship between Latin America and China in economic advance and material improvement for entire economies and working people, in advancing socialist forces throughout the continent, and in contributing to the worldwide shift of the world's center of gravity from a decaying capitalism centered around the United States towards the economic vigor of socialist China. That the pink tide governments, pink tide of socialist governments of various hues washed over the continent at the same time as it got closer to China was no coincidence. Thanks to the US's petulant resistance, the shift towards a China-centered world is also taking, or is having to take, the form of a division of the world into a declining US-centered camp and an advancing China-centered one. In this shift and in this division, Latin America is playing a critically important role. The US Congressional Research Service reports that in the new century, trade between China and Latin America grew 17-fold. China also became the top trading partner of Brazil, Chile, Peru, and Uruguay, and is the second largest trading partner for many other countries in the region, with free trade agreements with Chile, Costa Rica, and Peru, and talks on the same with Ecuador began last month. As China's presence in Latin America grew, that of the United States manifestly declined. In 2001, Latin American exports to China represented only 1.6% of the total, while in 2020, this figure had risen to 26%. By contrast, the region's exports to the US fell from 56% in 2001 to 13% in 2020. That's a pretty precipitate decline. Much the same has happened to imports. As for investment in the 15 years to 2020, the China Global Investment Tracker database reveals that China's investment in Latin America amounted to 140 billion, with Brazil alone accounting for 64 billion of those and Peru 25 billion. Energy and construction projects are in the lead, while China is also lending massively for energy and infrastructure. The only field where the US retains an edge is private foreign direct investment. The US remains the major investor in the region, followed by Spain. However, this is beginning to change, and Chinese companies are entering the continent, especially in the infrastructure, raw material, and energy sectors. The FDI anomaly is moreover only apparent. On closer scrutiny, it turns out to be an organic part of the broader pattern that we identified earlier. While the United States and the European Union invest and engage through private companies, Latin America's relationship with China is mostly through bilateral agreements between governments and state-owned companies and governments. Rather than undermining governments' ability to direct their economies toward popular welfare, China's approach bolsters it. The last 3 weeks have vastly accelerated all these rapid changes. As sanctions have been piled on Russia, not only has Russia's already advanced slide into the China-centered system accelerated, the rest of the world, including Latin America, is also watching, taking notes, and drawing critical conclusions about their strategies going forward. In the past, the economic subordination that came with economic relations with the United States was something a few critical intellectuals, dependentistas of one hue or another, tended to talk about. Today, the whole world can see that the US position on economic relations with anyone is of a my way or the highway character. One twist in the case of Latin America is that the US has now been forced with its sanctions against Russia to go cap in hand begging for energy and resources. And I am sure that our speakers will be addressing the issue and many others that have emerged over the past decades and weeks.